Welcome to GDs. And this is Beacon 23, Season 1. Season starts on Beacon 23 in space, which acts as a lighthouse and helps guide spaceships through black matter. Beacon 23's Beacon Keeper receives a communication from a spaceship called Crest, informing him that they will be passing through their sector. Beacon Keeper warns them about a potential dark matter and asks them to reroute, as it is not safe, but he is not able to reach them because of some technical failure. In a desperate attempt, he tries to visually warn them, but before he could, the spaceship is destroyed by dark matter. Despite the spaceship being destroyed, one of the pods on the spaceship floated towards the beacon, and the Beacon Keeper was able to pull it inside in time. As the pod opens, we find that the surviving member from the Crest is Aster. She learns from the Beacon Keeper that the beacon was not able to warn them, as it got hacked. He then asks her where they were heading. Aster tells him that they were coming to Beacon 23, as they received his report about a mysterious mineral he found. Learning this, Solomon got a bit defensive, and tells Aster that he will discuss it later, and asks her to rest for now, and not to poke around. But Aster found his behavior a bit odd, and with the help of the ship's AI, she figured out that the person with whom she met was not the Beacon Keeper, but someone impersonating him. Aster, with the help of her personal AI Harmony, tricks and locks the impersonator in an airlock. She also enables the ship's AI Bart, and he is now able to interact with him verbally. Aster learns that the person she locked is Halan, and he is a soldier in ISA, and is presumed to have gone AWOL. Halan tells Aster that the original Beacon Keeper, Solomon, took his ship and ran, and he had nothing to do with his disappearance, but the ship's AI Bart blames him for killing Solomon. Observing Halan, Aster thinks the Halan is suffering from PTSD, and she tries to help him out. Halan assures her that he had nothing to do with Solomon disappearing, and offers to help her find the rocks she is looking for, provided she allows him to leave on a small cutter ship when the ISA comes to pick her up. Aster, despite being warned by both the AIs, she strikes a deal with him, and he takes her to the part of the ship where all the rocks Solomon found were stored. But as Halan gets near the rocks, he faints. And when he wakes up, he finds himself locked again, and Aster tells him that she cannot just allow him to walk away. As they were talking, an unfamiliar ship arrives at Beacon 23 and docks without authorization. We then learn that the ship that docked is a pirate ship with a gang of wreckers who were hired to loot the remains of the Crest and were warned against taking Beacon 23. Aster was able to lock the main hatches of the ship, creating a barrier between herself and the wreckers. But one of the wreckers was able to hack Bart, gaining partial control of the ship's function. Harmony identifies the wrecker's leader as Battle, and he is a known criminal. In his crew, she also identifies Kennedy, a former minister of a colony that collapsed, along with her son, Chick, who was forced to take the lead. Chick finds Halan locked up on the bottom level of the ship, and he gets him out. Halan is able to negotiate a deal with Battle, and tells him that he will help him open all the 5 hatches in just a few minutes, as it will take his hacker a lot longer to unlock all the hatches, and they don't have time, as the ISA was on its way to the beacon. In return, he just wants to be allowed to leave the ship. Battle agrees to team up with him, but Halan used this opportunity to get away. He then teams up with Aster, and assures her that he is on her side. It is when we learn that being in the army, Halan has received various modifications, and indeed he himself is a weapon, and he charges himself up. With Halan agreeing to help Aster, she also opens up to him, telling him that she doesn't work for the ISA, but another organization known as the QTA. With Halan being ready, they open all the hatches, and are able to split the intruders up. Kennedy is angry with her son for trying to impress Battle, while Chick resents her mother, as he blames her for allowing their colony to collapse. As Halan goes after the wreckers, Aster, feeling that she can reach an understanding with Kennedy, talks with her and negotiates a deal. Aster agrees to pay her, on the condition that she will leave the rocks, as they have no value for her. In addition, she wants her to take Halan with her, as she leaves. Kennedy agrees, and is able to get her son to leave the rocks, and she heads towards their docked ship. But before leaving, she tells Aster that it was the QTA who had hired them. On the other hand, Halan was able to take out 2 of the wreckers, and the last of them standing was Battle. But Battles was able to knock him out before he could attack him. Battle then goes after Aster, but Aster is able to have an upper hand, and she stabs and kills him. Halan also survived, and as he wakes up, he learns from Kennedy that Aster has paid for his ticket to get off the beacon, and he can join her. But Halan, feeling some kind of connection with Aster, refuses to leave. As Kennedy was about to leave with Chick, they get into an argument, and Chick accidentally shoots and kills his mother. But he felt no remorse for his action. And being the last wrecker standing, he leaves with the ship. As Halan gets back, he faints again, and Aster thinks that rocks trigger his PTSD. With Halan staying back, he starts to bond with Aster. Aster shows Halan that under the microscope, the mineral structure of the rocks looks like the pendant she received from her mother. While Harmony successfully revives Bart, who continues to insist that Halan killed Solomon, but Harmony clarifies that his death was an accident. Later we see Halan being attacked by a mysterious figure, and as they were going against each other, Aster stops them, and we find that the person who attacked Halan was Aster's colleague and lover, Coley. Coley came to Beacon 23 to help Aster transport the rocks. Aster, forming a bond with Halan, agrees to help him get off the beacon, and she informs Coley that they will first drop off Halan, and thereafter they will go to QTA to deliver the rocks. But Coley is suspicious of Halan's intentions, and believes that he is also after the rocks. In addition, she also gets a bit jealous, seeing him and Aster making a connection. But with conditions in the space not being safe to leave, they had some time to kill. Aster tries to get Halan and Coley to find some common grounds. But Coley, wanting to draw a wedge between Aster and Halan, tells Aster about how Halan abandoned his squad, causing them all to die. While she tells Halan on how Aster uses people, and throws them away when she no longer needs them. Seeing Coley's behavior, both Halan and Aster get quite upset. Later, Aster figured out that QTA intentionally caused the crest to crash, and it was their plan, and that's why her pod had extra oxygen. Aster, learning that Chloe knew about it all along, gets even more irritated with her. In addition, she also starts to question QTA's intentions. As conditions improve for them to leave, we find that Chloe was not willing to take Halan with them. Thus, in order to eliminate him, she first gives Aster a sedative, knocking her out. But before she could execute Halan, Aster was able to get an antidote, and she ends up killing Chloe in order to stop her. We then go back 180 years earlier, when a powerful QTA industrialist, and one of the lead engineers who built the beacon, Milan Aleph, arrives at Beacon 23, disguised as a maintenance worker. Milan came to Beacon 23, wanting to get more information about an artifact that was seen by Beacon 23's first beacon keeper. The present beacon keeper of Beacon 23 shares a mother-son relationship with the ship's AI Bart, and after seeing the documentation of Milan, she allows him to get on the beacon. Being in the beacon, Milan is quite upset with all the aesthetics of the beacon keeper. Milan, in order to have time to himself to work, poisons the beacon keeper. But Bart is able to save her by administering an antidote. Regaining consciousness, she confronts Milan and tells him that she knows who he is, and whatever he wants, he could have just asked her. Milan tells her that the drug only knocked her out, as he wanted to have no disturbance. As they talk, Milan reveals to her that he plans to build a system to connected human consciousness, in order to have immortality, and eliminate all physical need of the body. And for doing so, he feels that the artifact that the first beacon keeper saw holds a significant answer. But the present beacon keeper challenges him in his views, trying to convince him that the emotional aspects of the human body is what makes them human. Bart believes that Milan will be responsible for genocide in pursuit of immortality, thus he wants to end his life. But his mother is able to get him to back down. As Milan and the beacon keeper continue to talk, he seems to have made a connection with her, and he asks her to come with him, while she invites him to stay with her. But both were not willing to move. As Milan was about to leave, Bart traps him in an airlock and suffocates him, despite the beacon keeper telling him to stop. Milan, in his dying breath, was able to activate a new AI, programmed to carry on his work. Aleph, the new AI in Milan's image, asks the beacon keeper to work with him, but she refuses, and tells him that the artifact which he seeks so desperately can only be seen by human eyes. She also tells him that she can no longer trust any AI, and she turns him away. In addition, she also stops interacting with Bart. Back in the present, Aster gets Harmony to recover footage from Halan's last mission, as it was possible now, because of Coley's advance clearance. As they saw the footage, they learned that Halan's team was outnumbered and he didn't abandon them. In addition, the rocks they found were also present where they were fighting, and Halan inhaled their fumes. Aster believes that the fumes somehow altered his brain, which resulted in him ending up on Beacon 23. But Harmony doesn't believe her version, and thinks that the minerals are some kind of a virus. With Halan seeing the footage of his last mission, he starts to have strong hallucinations. Even the rock starts to talk with him. He also sees Gashade, one of his squad members, and she convinces him to open the beacon storage unit, which results in all the rock samples to be released in space. We then get to see Solomon being on the beacon and collecting the rocks, and writing about them in his journal. One day, he is contacted by Halan from spaceship Amboina, asking permission to dock and resupply, as he was low on oxygen. But Solomon, not wanting anyone on Beacon 23, asks him to go to another station, despite Halan telling him that he does not have enough oxygen. Halan, not having any other option, forcefully enters the beacon, and takes over the control from Solomon. Solomon is concerned that he only came to the beacon for his research, and shows Halan the flight path he took to reach there. As in his journey, he avoided several stops in between, where he could have stopped to resupply. Seeing the same, he is quite disturbed, as he doesn't remember anything, and being close to a rock, he passes out, and this gives Solomon an opportunity to escape, and he boards Halan's ship Amboina, and tries to get away. As Halan regains consciousness, he tells Bart to ask Solomon to return, as his ship has no oxygen, since he didn't refill and used the last of it to shoot himself to the beacon. Bart tries to connect Amboina, but receives no response. Knowing what might have happened, Bart starts to blame Halan for the death of Solomon. And this is why Halan decided to disable Bart's speech. In the present, with Halan releasing all the rocks in the space, they all come together and move in an unnatural formation. We are then taken back in time again, and we get to see Kier, a member of a resistance group, calling themselves the Column. The group is protesting space expansion at the cost of humanity. And their faith is based on relics, which they believe came from an alien civilization. Kier plans to blow up Beacon 23, and he plants a bomb for doing so. But Bart was able to detect the same. Bart, in order to delay him, tells him that if he has time, he can tell him about the artifact from which they got their relics. With Kier wanting to know the same, he stays back, and Bart tells him that the artifact was first observed by Beacon 23's first beacon keeper, Dr. Avalon. But the artifact was visible only through her naked eyes, and no sensor was able to pick anything. Dr. Avalon started having increasingly vivid hallucinations, and she grew more and more fascinated by the artifact. Dr. Avalon, in order to get a closer look, goes to see the artifact in space, and as she gets near it, she mysteriously disappears. Bart then tells him that the Column believes that the artifact is some kind of a message from them, from an alien civilization, and emphasizing this, he tells him that the artifact tried to communicate with another person also on the beacon. Bart tells him that in an experimental phase, beacon keepers were allowed to be on the beacon with a partner, but they had to prove their infertility for doing so. Despite infertility being a norm, the couple on Beacon 23, Farut and Grisha, conceived, and a child was born on Beacon 23. Despite knowing it was against the norms, they decided to care for the child, and had planned to sneak out before the arrival of their replacement. It was their child, Parsum, who started feeling connected with the artifact, and grew more erratic whenever it showed up. Her mother, as well as Bart, both tried to keep her distracted, but failed. Her father, studying the artifact, and seeing it not being recorded on any of the sensors, came up with the theory that absence is the presence, and based on his observation, he started correctly predicting each of artifact's appearance. Farut became obsessed with understanding the artifact, but Grisha, knowing that the artifact was affecting her daughter, wanted it gone. Thus, using his husband's calculation, she predicts the artifact's next location, and using the drone she destroys the artifact, which resulted in the artifact scattering into rocks. With the artifact destroyed, their daughter loses her connection, and her health starts to improve. The family finally leaves Beacon 23 with new identities, with Parsum's name being changed to Aster, and before leaving, Bart gifted her a necklace having the artifact structure. The story distracted Kier long enough for the ISA to reach there. Kier tries to blow up the beacon, but Bart tells him that he disabled the bomb. He also tells him that although he might have told him the story to delay him, but whatever he told him was the truth. We then get to see the moment when Solomon arrived on the beacon. Solomon, knowing that Bart kept the secret of their previous beacon keeper and allowed them to care for a child, decides to wipe out his memories, and he reboots him. In the present, Aster and Halan take shifts to observe the restored artifact, and seeing the same, Aster's memories of her childhood on Beacon 23 return to her. It is when a ship approaches them, and Aster is asked if she has been able to figure out who she was. Wanting to know more, Aster allows the ship to dock, and we find that was Kier on the ship. As they allow Kier to come on board, he tells them everything, and in order to prove his point, he asks Bart to show them the footage from before. It is when Bart realizes that Solomon deleted his memories. With Bart not having any records, Kier tries to convince them, which gives time to his associates, Finch and Saldana, to sneak in, and they knock out and restrain Aster and Halan. Kier wants Aster to make contact with the artifact, as he believes that it has a message for them, and Aster is the only one with whom it will communicate. Aster is not sure about the same, but feeling connected with the artifact, wants to give it a try. While Bart, going through Aster's father's journal, was able to predict the coordinates where the artifact will next appear, although it tells her that the artifact is not behaving as it used to. But with QTA ships inbound, Halan wanted her to leave with him, but Aster tells him that she plans to stay and communicate with the artifact. As QTA ships get close to the beacon, they are engaged by the beacon drones, and they are able to keep them at bay for the moment. Halan, learning that his ship Amboina has returned near to the beacon, leaves the beacon on a cutter, and with help from Bart, he is able to reach his ship. On his ship, he finds another rock, which Solomon took with himself, and as he releases it in the space, it reunites with the artifact. Meanwhile, the QTA ships were able to pass the beacon drones, and were heading towards it, but Halan, being in Amboina, is able to take them down. On the beacon, Bart is enraged when he realizes that his earlier memories were permanently deleted by Solomon. Bart, feeling he lost his soul, commits suicide by self-destructing himself, despite Harmony pleading him not to do so. Aster is later able to find a strong connection with the artifact, and she has visions of herself as a child, and of her as an adult. In her visions, she also sees Halan beside her, inside the artifact. As Halan returns to the beacon, he asks Aster to leave with him, as more QTA ships will be inbound. But Aster is not sure. Kier is also pushing her to translate the message that the artifact has for the world, and tells her that he is there for her. Halan, despite knowing more QTA ships will be coming, was shocked to see Aleph, the quantum AI, in charge of the QTA, reaching there, in a giant mothership. Finch and Saldana, seeing him there, inform the column about it, and they receive a message from the column, instructing them to take out Aleph, but before they could, they are stopped by Harmony, and she tells them to leave. Aleph visits Aster, and tells her that he wants to learn about the artifact, as he wants to work for the betterment of humanity. And since he cannot see the artifact, he wants Aster's help to learn more about it. Aster makes a deal with Aleph that if he can assure her that no charges will be brought against Halan, she along with Halan will enter the artifact, with an option to return in 24 hours, and they will give Aleph whatever data he wants. Halan was not keen on going inside the artifact, but agrees to stick by Aster, when she tells him that a part of him is already inside the artifact. With everything finalized, Aster tells Kier that she plans to tell everyone what she learns, both AIs as well as humans. But Kier was not willing to take that chance, as he believed that the message was only for humans, and not for AIs. So in order to stop Aster, he shoots her. And as the season ends, we see Aster bleeding out, while having a vision of herself receiving the message from the artifact. Thanks for watching. And if you liked it, please subscribe.